listening to The Loop, a podcast by Mosaic Church. The goal? To know Jesus a little better so we can live like him a little more. And now, here's today's host, Jeremy Hall.
Hi, welcome to a special edition of The Loop. My name's Jeremy Hall, and I'm the executive pastor here at Mosaic Church, and I'm joined by three medical professionals here, and we're going to talk about the COVID vaccine, which is obviously a pretty hot topic right now in our culture. But before we dive into the subject and some questions that I have for you guys as we consider what to do with this vaccine, I'd love for you to introduce yourself. So if you can start with your left here, just tell us who you are, what area of the medical field you serve in, as well as how long you've called Mosaic Church your home.
Perfect. Yeah. Hey, I am Perry Walton. I'm board certified in emergency medicine. Have been working here in the ER locally for about 8 years, and about a year ago took a job with a different company doing complex medical care for patients in their homes. These are patients that have a lot of complex conditions, and so we get a ton of questions about the COVID vaccine. I've been at Mosaic for about 7 years now, and am on the elder team as of this year.
Very cool.
My name is Gary Freeman. I'm a pharmacist here in town doing retail pharmacy. And like Perry said, we get a lot of questions about COVID from everyone, what's going on. And I've been here at Mosaic's probably about 5 years.
Very cool. Welcome.
Awesome. I'm Josh Tate. I'm one of the local endocrinologists here. So I'm board certified endocrinology, metabolism, diabetes, and internal medicine. So most people are like, what is endocrinology? We call ourselves the hormone doctors. That's probably the easiest way that we're referred to as, and people understand that a little bit better. But otherwise, I've been here at Mosaic this time for 18 months, and I was previously here for 3 years. So all in all, probably about 4.5 years.
Dress code has changed since then.
Yes, it has changed.
Yeah, like the shirt and tie thing is awesome. It's a good look on you.
We're all trying to figure it out.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Yeah, Perry, you want to make sure we all knew that your mask and your tie do not match. So we'll have to work on that next time. Talk about the dress code. Well, hey, guys, man, as you know, in the last 12 months, things have just been a whirlwind for a lot of us, for everybody, actually, as we're trying to decide and make decisions on things that, honestly, I never thought we'd have to make decisions on, not only just for ourselves, but also for our families, such as, should I wear a mask? Should I go out in public? Should I send my kids to school? Should we go on that vacation? Should we still have people come over and for the holidays and join us for Thanksgiving? The questions go on and on and on. And now we're faced with another question. And the question is, should we take the COVID vaccine? And so that's what I want to talk to you guys about today, because of all the prayer requests we get here at Mosaic, I would say it's very possible that the number one prayer request we get is that we would pray for people as they seek guidance on whether or not to actually get the vaccine. Now, I want to make sure, and I know we're all on the same page. I actually don't even know what you guys believe concerning the vaccine yet. We haven't talked about that. And I think we'd all agree that God's word does not tell us specifically what to do concerning this vaccine. And I think we would all agree that it's not our job to tell people what they should do concerning the vaccine. Mm-hmm. But I do believe that as a local church, we do have the responsibility to take the opportunity to share with people some things that maybe they don't know as they seek God's direction in the decision they're going to make. In fact, Proverbs 15, verse 22 says this. It says, without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors, they succeed. So while I don't think we're going to be able to answer every question that everybody has, my prayer is that by having you guys here and just being honest, sharing not only your knowledge from the medical field, but also just being real with us, hopefully by the questions we go through and the questions that we talk about and your answers, hopefully will help people to better understand what this vaccine is all about, which will hopefully help them make a decision whether or not it's right for them. Now, I'll be honest with you, I think the underlying reason why people are asking us to pray for them as they decide whether or not to get the vaccine is fear. And it's a lot of the fear of the unknown. So I'm just going to ask you guys some questions that we get, some questions that I've gotten, and I have no idea what the answer is. And actually, there's one question we'll talk about that I'll kind of begin with that I actually got wrong. And that was this, is if you've actually had the COVID, if you got the virus at one point, do you still need to be vaccinated?
And I guess I'll start. So I think that is a tough question, and the answer probably is, well, we aren't 100% sure. But I will say that some data shows that even after you get COVID infection, that the natural immunity, we don't know how long it lasts. We do know how long the innate immunity lasts from the vaccine itself. And it's up to 6 months now in some of the studies, and some of the longer term data is starting to show that it's lasting longer than they initially thought, whereas with the actual virus itself, maybe only 3 months of immunity from the virus. So I would suggest in that case that I will say I have colleagues that have had it. I have colleagues that have also had the vaccination on top of that. And then the question comes to bear, well, do you need one vaccine or do you need the second dose on top of that? So that's another question. We just don't know, and I think that comes back to being a personal decision if the risk outweigh those benefits in that case, or the benefits outweigh the risk in that scenario. So,
yeah, I think that's a great answer. I think I would add to that, too, that if you have recently had COVID, we know that there's some natural immunity. And we know right now trying to immunize as many people as possible means we want to get as much people with some kind of immunity, whether that's natural or from the vaccine, done. So if you have recently had it and you're within that kind of 3 to maybe even 6 month time frame, it's okay to wait a little bit so that other people that want the vaccine
that's a good point.
haven't actually have the vaccine available to them. So
It's a real
absolutely.
good point.
Yep.
Yeah, I noticed that the 90-day waiting period, that gives you 90 days to decide anyway.
yeah, and there was actually some studies that came out this week that showed that 90 days maybe even be 3 to 6 months. So
Could pop it on up.
Yeah, so even longer than that 90-day kind of period, even up to 6 months now is kind of what some of the studies that came out this week have shown for immunity when I've had COVID.
Yep.
Oh,
Our own innate immunity from the virus itself. So maybe longer. But
Right.
I agree with Perry that it is important, given the shorthand or short amount of vaccines that we have, especially in the state of Mississippi, then definitely allow others to get it if you're within that window. That is a very good point.
such a great point.
Yep.
Let's go back to kind of maybe the vaccine and some of the fears. I find that one of the questions I get, and again, I'm a pastor, and so people come to me for like spiritual guidance, not necessarily knowledge in the medical field, but yet sometimes I think they think I know, and I simply don't. But one of the questions or one of the fears is the expediency in which the vaccine was made available. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was called Operation Warp Speed or something like that, which obviously raises in people's mind this idea of like, hey, if it came so fast, we don't know what the long-term effects are. So I guess my question for you guys as professionals are you concerned with the quickness that the vaccine was made available, and are you concerned about the long-term effects from it?
Well, I can answer to some of this. They didn't skip any of the steps when they made the vaccine. They just combined some of the steps, condensed them into one study, like phase 1 and phase 2 was condensed together instead of taking phase 1, ending it, and then starting phase 2. So it did it on economic, value. So they were backed by the government, so they didn't have to worry about as much finances with that. So none of the steps were skipped. It was all done. It was just condensed down into a timeline for them to go ahead and get it out. So used technology that was already approved, used that to form the vaccine. So
Yeah, to add to that, I think the biggest misunderstanding is the fact that they think that the vaccine is brand new from a coronavirus standpoint. Coronaviruses have been around for years, and vaccines have been in development, as you could say, for years, looking at different coronaviruses, some being common causes of common cold, others such as the SARS virus back in the early 2000s. Then you had MERS virus in the kind of early 2010s. But those have been around. They've been studied. The underlying genomics of this virus, or coronavirus in general, has been studied extensively. So they had a basis for the vaccine itself. And I agree that that they did not skip any steps in development, and it actually was a great, quick production from the Operation Warp Speed. They just had a good basis for it to begin with, so I think that helped a lot.
Yeah, I will echo what they're saying and agree. One thing I'll say is obviously the more data we get, the better, right? And so are there things that we could be worried about that are long-term, long-lasting effects that we don't know about? Answer is absolutely. I mean, depending on what year it is, chocolate's good for you or it's not. Correct. Wine is good for you or it's not. So we are going to have these ebb and flows of, is this good or is it bad? But in general, right now, all the data would suggest that, yes, this is helpful. And it's going to help us as a world population to actually move forward and away from the COVID.
And I think a good rebuttal to that, those long-term pieces that we don't have from a vaccine standpoint, there's also this other side of the story. There's the long-term complications from COVID infection that we don't know about.
Yeah.
So again, it's a risk-benefit ratio we're looking at.
It's good. That's good.
And also in phase 3, normally they would not start making the vaccine until they finished it, and they started manufacturing the vaccine during phase 3. So that helped it expedite it.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. So I'm going to ask a question that I'm not even sure I know what I'm asking. But again, we've received this, and it's this. It's some people are advocating right now that mRNA is dangerous as a molecule. Can you first explain to those of us that have no idea what that means? What does it mean that mRNA is a molecule, and is it truly dangerous?
So, I get this question every day because it's kind of a new theory in the vaccination world, and people aren't comfortable with it because it's genetics, right? So you hear the word genetics, you get scared. Yes, mRNA is part of our genetics, but it's not the genetics we typically think of like DNA. So mRNA represents a messenger RNA. It basically takes that part of the genetics and produces proteins. So the way the virus works is that mRNA is designed to go into our cells and produce a protein called a spike protein, just like the virus does. And in that sense, it's creating a synthetic form of the spike protein that the virus normally produces so our body can build its own innate immunity. And that way you have protection from the virus when you do get exposed. So I think the question people get concerned, or the concern people have, is that is it affecting our DNA? And in no shape, form, or fashion that mRNA never enters the nucleus of the cell where the DNA is held. So there's really no interaction between the two, because once that spike protein is formed from the mRNA itself, it degrades. So it just disappears. But the spike protein and the immunity we build from it is still present.
So I've answered.
Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I've answered all the questions based upon that.
The dumbed down version of that is mRNA.
Yes,
I'm just a dummy ER doctor. So the mRNA is a blueprint. That's what it is. It goes in and it is just saying, hey, make this. Like, we're just moved up the chain from where we are on a lot of vaccines that we currently give. We give a little bit of either the live or sometimes attenuated virus, so that the body can go, oh, there's something that's in me that shouldn't be in me, and I need to form a defense to that. And that is not how this works. So the other great thing about that is that another big question you hear is, well, can I catch COVID from the vaccine?
Yeah.
And the answer is 100% no, because there's no virus in this. This is sending a blueprint to your body to say, hey, this is how you're going to need to fight this. Go ahead and make it.
So this protein that mRNA is forming is not the actual virus protein. It looks like the virus protein, and that's what builds the immunity. There is no virus that you're getting. So that is a falsehood. You cannot get COVID from the vaccine.
So is that why people are confused by it or even scared of it? Is because it's so different than, say, the flu shot or whatever it may be?
Right.
As Perry was saying, that you do get a live or attenuated virus from those other vaccines that we're used to. I mean, we commonly hear that every year. Oh, I got the virus or I got flu when I got the flu shot.
Right.
So it is a different technology we're using here.
Wow. Well, so let's kind of maybe jump then in our conversation a little bit. So, get past the fear, and now I'm like, okay, I'm signed up, which I'm not signed up, but I don't have an opportunity to get it yet. But let's say I sign up for it. What should I expect? What are some of the side effects from the vaccine? Because I understand you get like the first dose and then you get the second dose. And if I'm not mistaken, sometimes between the two doses, there's totally different side effects or things. Can you guys explain some of that or what people can expect?
Well, I've seen some people have more reaction to the first than they have the second, and vice versa. Biggest problem is redness or swelling at the injection site. Flu-like symptoms as possible: fever, chills, headaches, aches, body aches, and just feeling lethargic. So it varies from person to person. There's no one thing that happens to one versus the other. So the biggest thing I've seen is the redness at the injection site and soreness of the arms.
Good.
Right. Yeah. And so, I mean, there's two different main vaccines that we're giving out right now, the Pfizer and the Moderna. Anecdotally, I've heard more people having the Moderna having a little bit of more side effects than the Pfizer. That would not keep me from getting either one of them personally. If I were offered both. I would take either one. Wouldn't change my mind at all. Fatigue, body aches, fevers, kind of fairly common. Redness at the site, common. Anaphylaxis, which is the severe allergic reaction, is very rare from this. And I think even the Allergy and Immunology, the College of Allergy and Immunology would say, unless you have a specific allergy to a specific protein that's in the vaccine, like if you don't have that specific allergy, you should go ahead and get this. It's worth it to do it. So anecdotally, I've heard, more people second dose, if they have kind of a bad time with the first dose, are going to have a worse time with the second dose. That being said, everyone that I've talked to said, man, I'm so glad I'm vaccinated. Like, that was no fun for 24 to 48 hours. But now I've got 95%, 92%, whatever the current number is, immunity. And that was worth it for 2 days of not feeling well.
Yeah, the side effects doesn't linger once you get the shot. It's just 2 or 3 days and it's over with.
It's over.
But you are covered, like Perry said. You're 95%, 95.6% in some of them. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll echo that. I mean, the symptoms vary significantly. So you should not look at one person who had what you would consider more severe reaction and use that as your antidote not to get it, because people have such a varying degree of symptoms. So definitely the getting the vaccine, as Perry mentioned, most people are very happy, even if they had a severe reaction after the fact, because they are resolved within 48 hours most of the time. So
that's good.
As a personal experience, I had finished my 2 shots, and I had no side effects on either shot besides just the soreness of the arm. Just moving my arm, and it was sore for a couple of days. That was it.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, probably all 3 of you guys have had to have the vaccine. Is that correct? Did you guys experience any side effects?
So I'll echo what Gary was saying, that my side effects were sore arm, and then about 2 days later, I had about 3 hours of myalgia, so just muscle aches, and it lasted for less than 3 hours, so it's pretty mild.
Yeah, and I was kind of same, low-grade fever, didn't feel good for about 24 hours, drank water, and kind of powered through it and back at work the next day. So definitely, super excited to have that card that has both of my shots filled out on it. I got the Moderna, and so I think, absolutely 100% would do it again, and would, I think one of the questions I think you mentioned in the very beginning, or we haven't even talked about yet, was, would you recommend this to your family? And 100% yes is my answer. I would recommend this to my family and friends.
Yeah, well, you've asked questions. So, first off, which one did you have? You had Moderna.
I had Moderna also.
I had Pfizer.
Okay, so let's go back to your question, because that was one I wanted to ask you guys, and I do want to preface it with this. My goal, the goal of the Loop, the goal of Mosaic Church is not to encourage people to do one thing or the other. Our goal is simply to provide counsel from people that we respect as they pray through whether or not God's calling them to do that. So, as I ask you this question, or as Perry already has, just understand, I just want to know your heart, not necessarily what you're advocating for or advocating for everybody else. So would you encourage your family? Obviously, you had to get it because of your profession. Would you also encourage your family to get it and loved ones to get it as well?
Yes, I did 100% encourage everyone to get it. It's a personal thing. You don't want to go through all the side effects of having COVID. And the other is only 2 or 3 days of symptoms possibly. So I would 100% recommend it. It's coverage. People want to get out, do things, mingle, socialize. So about the only way that we can do those things is to get vaccinated.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Hey, I think I'll throw a quick intermission in there and say, if you get the vaccine, that doesn't mean that you don't do all of the other normal things that you would typically do.
Correct.
That we're talking about, like mask mandates, like social distancing, like washing your hands. That doesn't mean like, hey, I've got my vaccine card, I'm like, woo, free to go do whatever I want. That's not how that works.
Why not? I mean, honestly, I really mean that as an honest question. I mean, if I'm vaccinated and I can't catch it, then I can't give it to somebody else because I can't get it. So why am I doing all those things?
Oh, I agree with Perry. It's 100%. You still have to prevent things. You still have to wash your hands and mask, because you still have that 5% that you can get it. You can be a carrier for somebody else to get it.
So the average person that gets it passes it on to 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know who those 3 people will be.
Right.
They might be at the grocery store or the gas station or at church or, at work. And there's still, it's not 100% effective, right? Like, does it help? Absolutely, it helps. And if I were to choose something that like I have a chance to not get really bad if I caught it, would I do it? And the answer for me is yes.
Absolutely.
Everybody.
And you have to take into consideration the number of asymptomatic carriers that are out there. We know they're there. So you could be in that 5% after you get both vaccinations that you are positive, but you're asymptomatic carrier. So do you want that to be your kind of risk there? Probably not.
That's good. That's really good. Did you answer the question?
I have not. So I agree with both of them that 100%. Me and my wife and I have prayed about it, and she would definitely get it once it's available to her. So whenever it is, she plans on getting it for sure.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think probably another kind of subgroup that people ask a lot about is pregnancy. And should I do that? So if I were pregnant, I know the horror, that would be awful. But if I were pregnant, would I get it? My answer would be yes. For me, it would be yes. I would have a lot of good discussions with my OBGYN if I were a pregnant woman trying to pray through, hey, is this right for me? Do I need to do this? I would definitely have some good long conversations with my OBGYN. But in the end, when you look at the data right now, it says, yes, do it.
Yeah, and their guidelines, American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, they recommend getting it for pregnancy and breastfeeding.
Yeah, the risk of the shot is greater than the benefit.
The risk of
benefit
of getting
outweighs,
COVID.
Yeah, the
benefit
benefit
outweighs the
getting
risk here.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. Let's kind of just keep going in that whole vein, if you don't mind, because I didn't even think about the whole idea of pregnancy and stuff like that. So I've asked you guys a few questions. What questions haven't I asked that I should have asked? Because you guys are getting more questions than I am.
I think a common one that I hear is, where do I get it? So, because you just assume everyone knows, right? Because it's all over the news and stuff, but not everyone watches the news, of course. So I would say that if you just either ask your primary care provider or your specialist, because they probably have some connections or at least instructions on where to get it or where to sign up for it. You can go to the Mississippi Department of Public Health website. They definitely have it. They have numbers on there to call. It's all via appointment and scheduling your vaccine. Definitely getting the first one is the most important, so go ahead and call the appointment line just to get that scheduled. But your doctor can usually help with that.
That's good to know.
Yeah, you can just sign up online or on the phone. They have both avenues.
Yeah, I think another big question is, should I just wait? The Moderna and the Pfizer are both a 2-shot series. I've heard that there's this other one coming out that's just going to be 1 shot. Should I wait and get that one? I'm just, otherwise normal, healthy person. Should I just wait and get that? And what I would say is if you have the opportunity to get either the Pfizer or the Moderna, that would be my personal recommendation. The studies are a lot stronger when you look at the numbers from those. They did a lot more people. There's actually the AstraZeneca is the name of the other one that's going to be a 1-shot. And that one, there was actually some flaws in the study. They accidentally gave a bunch of people a half dose. Interestingly, those people that got the half dose actually did better than the people that got the full dose.
Yep.
Yeah.
So some big flaws in that study. If that were the only one that I could get, I would still take that one. If it were the only one, but if I were choosing between the 3, I'd choose either Moderna or Pfizer.
Yeah, and I agree. The data what we have now for Moderna and Pfizer is definitely better at this time. And we don't know. I mean, you're waiting on a vaccine that has yet to be FDA approved. We don't know if the trials will finish. You just never know because something could happen. So I say get it when you can.
That's good.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And you have 2 available, don't wait.
Yeah.
If you have an opportunity to sign up.
What else should I have asked you guys? Can you guys think of anything else that you get on a regular basis that maybe we haven't talked about yet?
I guess another common one that we hear is what age groups can actually get this vaccine. So if you look at the studies, the FDA approved it for 16 and up. And I think even though they did not have a significant number of teens in the study, I think they found it safe enough that 16 and up was their cutoff. Now, when that will be available to the general public at that age group, that's another thing that you can find online about when the rollout's supposed to happen for that age group. But that's a common question I get.
Yeah, that's good.
Can't think of any
I can't think of anything else.
others right now.
Well, good. Well, then,
I was going to say, I'll just say I appreciate you guys, the Loop and Mosaic kind of taking the time to put this together. Trying to get good information out to the public is so important. There's a lot of places you can go and get good, solid, factual evidence. And I would just encourage people to go to that, just like we use the Bible to go to for, hey, how do we want to live our lives? There's nothing in the Bible about getting a COVID-19 vaccine, but there is, like you said, there is wisdom when you get a multitude of counselors, and to do that in the right places is so important.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
great
hopefully
advice.
as they pray through it, this will help them some. And
Absolutely. That's great advice. In fact, you guys have any other advice for people as they think through this and pray through whether or not they're led to take the vaccine?
And I think we've kind of hit on it. This is a personal decision. So it's between you and your family and God. And prayer is going to be number one. And then I think talking to your doctor about your risk factors as far as the risk-benefit ratio we've been talking about is going to be key. So,
Good.
yeah, the risk benefits for everyone has got to be weighed. So.
Absolutely. Well, I can't say it enough. I really appreciate your time. I guess I have two big asks for you guys before we leave. Number one, I'm guessing some people are going to watch this and they're going to send an email to me, and I'd love to get an email. I will not give them your email, but I would appreciate you guys make sure my mosaicgc.com email is not going to your junk file, because I might be asking you guys for some wisdom. So that's my number one big ask. And my number two one is, you mentioned that when you get the vaccine, there's a day or two that you don't feel very good. So would one of you guys be willing to give me a note so I can get out of work during those times?
If you go get the vaccine, I'll get you the note.
There you go.
We'll just
as
talk
you're
to your
ready.
boss.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, I'll give you his number if you don't already have it. Seriously, guys, I really appreciate your time. Like I said, this is unprecedented times for all of us, and so people really are, and I'm so encouraged to see people wrestle with this, because for some it's a spiritual decision. For some it's a, hey, I got to look out for my weaker brother. For some it's a very personal yet still spiritual decision. It's like, hey, I got to look out for my family and do what's best for me so that I'm still around for them. And a lot of it just really boils down to what we don't know. A lot of times causes some fear and some questions, and I really do, like I began, I really hope that our time has helped people. I know it's helped me. I'm listening to you guys talking, like, well, I didn't know that. Well, I got that wrong. Well, I was wrong there. So I really appreciate it, and I just cannot thank you guys enough for what you guys do. I think everybody that's watching this would agree that you guys really are our heroes, along with our policemen and our firemen, and the list goes on and on, our teachers. But you guys being on the front lines taking care of people during this pandemic has just been something that is really nothing short of praiseworthy. So thank you. And again, we really appreciate you guys joining us for The Loop.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And yeah, definitely send in your questions. I would love to sit down and we can kind of work together as a team. We've got a lot of smart people in the church.
Absolutely.
So please send in any questions you have, and we'll do our very best to kind of like get into those and try to get emails back to you guys.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us today. I really hope you got as much out of the podcast as I did. I certainly learned a lot, and I trust you did as well, too. During our podcast, we talked about the fact that if you have questions, you can email us. That email is theloop@mosaicgc.com. Again, if you have any questions about the vaccine, anything I can forward on to our doctors to try to get you some clarity, please email us. Again, that's theloop@mosaicgc.com. We love you guys. Have a great day.